now with this new change in how you see SERP, right? Have you seen any changes in the way you search, right? Or in general, if you talk about users, what's the impact on the way they search, the way they consume this content? So what's your take on that?
I could just pick it up because I was already talking.
Yeah.
It's really, so if I look at my own behavior, I use ChatGPT and other LLMs a lot more over the last 12 months. And if you look at some of the more public data, it's very interesting. The Wall Street Journal just published an analysis, I think it was yesterday, where they showed that 17% of use cases are actually search related for ChatGPT. Right, so the biggest use case is more about like creative writing and some brainstorming, all that kind of stuff. Then there's some role playing, and then some people try to use LLMs for kind of very specific adult purposes. But then 17% use it for a replacement of search, which I found really interesting. And I think part of it is that you can just answer a much more specific question to LLMs compared to Google. Google has historically been terrible at long tail answers and searches. And so I think, again, there's this kind of subjective perception of how do I use LLMs, and I use them a lot more. I've replaced a lot of Google usage with ChatGPT, but then it also seems that there is a broader adoption of people using LLMs for certain purposes. Now, there's just one data point, right? Like, I'm very curious to see how that evolves over the long term, but it does seem that LLMs can, especially chatbots, provide specific value that replaces them in specific use cases with Google.
I have some thoughts. First of all, AI overviews are a bad product. And for user feedback, people seem to hate it, at least when I've seen people talk about it on Twitter or whatever, right? Obviously it doesn't represent everybody. That represents the Twitter audience. But, it's just not a good product, right? Like, it's really expensive to create. It's not offering better utility. There's been studies that indicate that users prefer to actually search and learn as they go and then further refine their queries to like get deeper into the information. And AI overviews and also that sidebar that they give you where like you load a page and it summarizes it for you. It's just dumbing down the web. Like, we don't need more of that, right? Just the same way we don't need more Reddit in our search results. So I don't love it. As far as LLMs in general, yes, they're absolutely valuable. And I do find myself like going back and forth between Google and a ChatGPT, or even like, I have a local install of Llama 3.1 because that's also state of the art at this point. And so I'm doing a variety of different things to get my information needs met. But still, I generally start from Google unless I feel like it's going to be a really complicated query where I have to like do multiple searches to get to what I want. And ultimately, that's what Google's trying to do. But again, the distillation of that information typically leaves out the nuances that I'm looking to understand with the search. So I don't think it's a net positive for humanity. I think if people use it in context with each other, then it can be valuable.
So I paid attention to how I've been searching for the last few months because this question keeps coming up, not just from SEO people, but from everyone who asks me if my job is dead and SEO is dead. So I'm not doing anything different. I'm doing a lot of Googling, but one thing, and I only go to ChatGPT or Perplexity or anything else when I want like a deeper answer. But otherwise, I like to inform myself. I want to do a Google search and then read a bunch of articles and inform myself. But the one thing that I would say, and I'll counter what Mike said, people don't want a bunch of Reddit search. I think people do want a bunch of Reddit search. They just need a better search interface. And Google is the interface. It's basically the personal search engine for Reddit. And Reddit does a really good job of informing opinions. So I recently traveled a bunch, and that's one of the use cases where all of the LLMs say, hey, we're great for planning trips. And I think they're all for planning trips. They're great for planning trips if you're the kind of person that walks into a travel agency and says, hey, here's what I want to do. Book it for me, hand me the tickets, and tell me what time I need to be where. That's boring. I like to inform myself and understand what is happening, what's good, what's very specific kind of things. And that I got out of Reddit. I was trying to pick a hotel to stay in based on location. LLMs would have said, well, this one's good and this one's also good and this other one is really good and they're all the same and you have no information. Whereas Reddit, they had the very specific experiences wrong or right, because there's lots of trolls on Reddit, but wrong or right, they were specific experiences. I was trying to decide whether to go to a certain museum in Tokyo that everyone said they fly to Tokyo to go to. LLMs, everyone said they fly to Tokyo to go to this museum. Reddit got very specific experiences about like the tiredness of the walls and the lines to get into the place. So I think that I would prefer, again, to see search results and to see people's individual experiences on everything, whether it's shopping or travel. So I don't think my searches have changed. And if anything, I've gone more into Google because I don't like the sanitized LLM outputs. They come from whatever it is, even Google. Like when it comes from an AI overview, I'm also scrolling down.
I just want to be clear. I wasn't saying that people didn't want more Reddit. I said they don't need it.
No one needs more Reddit.
Yeah, I think I have similar experiences as well. So even for my searches as well, I sometimes, consume the content that I have, but still because of, this mixed content, like Mike mentioned, right? I'm not able to 100% trust that content which is coming there, for critical queries where I know it's going to affect, my pocket. I'm going to spend some money on that, right? So there, yeah, I need sometimes double check. And like Mike mentioned, the product is probably not ready yet. Right now, the current shape of it, it's probably not the best product that you want to use, blindly. You want to trust blindly. But yeah, I think it's evolving. It's getting better, right? So my experience probably like a few months back versus today would be different. It's more positive, right? So yeah, let's see how it goes. But right now, yeah, I agree. I think the use cases also, we have very similar use cases, and I completely agree with Mike that the product right now is in bad shape, if we can put it that way.